The biggest complaint that I hear from new photographers is that lenses are expensive. So we have first party glass, which is all the lenses that Canon or Sony or Fuji or Leica, basically all the lenses that are made by the brand itself. And then you have third-party glass, and you probably have heard of Sigma and Tamron, and there are a ton of other manufacturers who make lenses for these various systems. And then there is what's inside this box, which is a little bit different and a little bit more universal, and is what I want to talk about and unbox today. I feel like I need to be careful. It says fragile on it. Oh, that was a good one. Got dust on the microphone. A few months ago, I actually alluded to me buying these. So these aren't sent to me, I actually bought them myself. And I think some of you actually guessed what it was that I was getting. Oh, it comes in a really nice case, look at this. This is my color. Gave us a screwdriver. We'll just put that aside. Look at this presentation. Kind of got to open them individually, but let's open them as I talk about what these are and why they're universal. So these lenses might look a little bit funny if you've never seen them before, not only because they are cinema lenses, but because they are anamorphic cinema lenses. So this is the lens that really got me interested in picking these up and buying a set. It is a 33 millimeter anamorphic T1.8. And if you don't know what a T-stop is, it's kind of like your aperture, except it's transmission value, and it's a more accurate representation of the light that is entering your camera. So T-stops is what we're looking at. We have some gears on the side of this lens, one ring which is for your focus distance, much like you would have on any regular photography lens, except this one is manual, meaning there are no motors, there's nothing fancy inside this lens. And like a lot of photography lenses, we also have an aperture ring or a T-stop ring, except again, there are no motors in it. Everything with this is manual, kind of like if you were filming or shooting photos on a film lens. And most cinema lenses follow that same format, where they have a ring for focus distance, they have another ring for aperture or for T-stop, and then if I take the rear cap off, they have a mount, except this mount is universal. And if you've never seen one of these before, this is actually what's known as PL mount. So instead of being RF for Canon or E mount for Sony or X mount or L mount or any of these mounts that are specific to one brand, this is a mount that you can then buy an adapter for. So much like you could get an EF lens and get an EF to RF adapter, you need an adapter to attach these to a camera. And the reason that that works and you can attach them to any camera is because there's nothing proprietary about this. There are no digital contacts. There's no, flange type that is tied to a specific system. You can take these and use them on any system that you want. Now, of course, in order to use it on any system that you want, you do need an adapter. And the one that I picked up is actually a universal adapter, if that makes sense. The packaging on this is so cool. I love anything that kind of just has like minimalist, like all black. Oh, look at this. The presentation on this, look at that. Oh, I guess it goes, what, this way? That way? You're probably wondering, like, Anthony, how do you have a universal adapter for universal lenses? That doesn't make any sense. Well, the one that I have here is an RF adapter, meaning I would take, hold on, let me grab my camera. I would take my Canon RF camera. This is the R5. Where's the R5 II? Hold on. We're pulling up the R5 II because, everyone loves to see the newest cameras. Take that lens off, that is an RF lens, and take this adapter and put it on. Let's see if I can line it up here. So now I have a PL RF mount adapter. So I can actually take these lenses and add them to this camera. First time doing this. This is very nerve-wracking when you've never done something before. Now I should be able to line this up. Oh no, I did it the wrong way. So this is another thing with PL mount camera lenses, is that you can actually mount them in any direction. So you're not forced to mount them one way, like horizontally. You can actually mount them vertically. So let's see, let me flip this around. So now I have a universal lens on this camera, but it's not just this camera that I can use it on. I actually have a Lumix S5 IIX over here that I can take this exact same setup and put it on the Lumix, because I bought one extra piece that allows me to do this. So the purple adapter that you just saw is the Poco Mofage Poco. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm probably not saying that right, but they make an adapter that you can actually adapt or change, if that makes sense. And I'll show you what these pieces are. So I'm not gonna do this on camera because it will take me a little bit of time to do, but I actually bought these 2 extra rings. So this is what the back of the adapter looks like. You can see there's this flange, but this flange has all of these screws, which are also on this piece, which is for L mount. Now this piece I can actually unscrew and change it. So this one adapter, just because I have this little piece, in a matter of 5-10 minutes, I could unscrew it, re-screw on this, and then I could take this lens with the universal lens mount adapter and put it on a Sony camera or a Leica camera or any camera, as long as you have this little piece that corresponds to it. So I have one of those for L mount. I also bought one for E mount for Sony. I don't think they had any for Fuji, otherwise I probably would have bought one. But the nice thing is that I didn't have to buy multiple adapters. I just had to spend a little bit extra, and instead of having to buy 3 different adapters, now I just have one that, unscrew and I can change it over. But there's one more hidden trick up this adapter universal lens mounts sleeve. And you may have noticed it, but it is this on the side. So inside the box that came with this adapter, I believe, there are some extra little goodies. And this is probably the part that I'm excited about the most. So normally if you were to add a cinema lens on the front of your camera, you probably want to use that shutter rule that allows you to, whatever your frame rate is, multiplied by 2, and that is your shutter speed. So, 24 frames per second, 1/48 or 1/50. But in order to do that, you would need an ND filter. Now, there are threads on the front of these lenses, and you could add something like a matte box, but if you're constantly swapping out, because I have a 33, I have a 50, and I have an 85, you don't want to constantly take off the matte box or constantly have to unscrew and rescrew the ND filter. So this little guy on the side, I believe I have to push this button, comes out. Now that is a nothingness. This is just a clear little piece, but I can actually replace that with what's in here. This is so universal. I feel like we are expanding our vocabulary into filmmaking. Am I becoming a cinematographer? Am I a YouTuber? Or am I a filmmaker? Or am I both? Neither, everyone is saying in the comments. But this little piece is a VND, and I wanna be super careful with it. I don't wanna touch it. But you can see, as I rotate the little wheel, is it focusing on my eye? Or is it got, let's see. Yeah, there you go. It is a variable ND. So I can actually take out that little, I have too many things in my hands. I can take out that clear piece and I'll put it back. I swear I need to get a table to do all this on. Just doing it on your lap is not the easiest thing ever. But this little piece should slide right in. And now I have a dial that controls my ND, and I don't have to worry about getting fingerprints on my ND or rotating it and touching it. Check this out. Now maybe you're wondering, well, Anthony, this all seems too good to be true. What's the catch here? Because there are actually a few catches. Now, This lens is an anamorphic lens. You don't have to buy anamorphic cinema lenses. There are a ton of other manufacturers that make regular rectilinear lenses, all the way from like 12 millimeters up to like 135 millimeters. So you can get lenses in any focal length, but most of those are gonna be prime lenses. If you start getting into zoom cinema lenses, there aren't as many options and they tend to be a little bit more expensive. Now, cinema lenses using cinema lenses does mean that everything is gonna be manual. So there is no autofocus, as I mentioned, there is no image stabilization, which means in most cases, if you are doing photography, if you are shooting a wedding, if you are doing a photo shoot, these probably aren't the lenses that you wanna use. And also because these are anamorphic lenses, they probably aren't the lenses that you wanna use. I actually did another video on what is anamorphic and what photos look like from an anamorphic lens. And the challenge is that there's no quick and easy way to scale them. Because if you take photos with an anamorphic lens, they're gonna be squished, and there's a process involved in scaling it out by like 1.3 or 1.5 or 1.6 or whatever the anamorphic ratio is. So these lenses are less for photography and more for video. But there is good news, because if you're someone who's like, well, I don't want a manual focus, that's too much work. The reason that these gears exist are, of course, because you can add a focus puller, or you can add a motor, or DJI makes its LiDAR system, and there are other companies that make similar systems where you can connect a focus motor and then connect a sensor that will read the distance between things and effectively convert these manual lenses into autofocus. Now, I still wouldn't recommend doing that for photography. It's gonna be a more video-centric or like content creation-centric strategy. But the nice thing, as mentioned, is that this works across systems. So rather than me having to buy a set of lenses for Canon, a set of lenses for Sony, a set of lenses for the Lumix, I can buy one set of lenses that, maybe in the future I want to change systems. Well, I don't have to change my lenses because they will work on all those different systems. Where is the Lumix? The Lumix is over here. So I am really just getting started in this realm of manual focus, manual aperture, kind of like filmmaking lenses. If you want to see more of the content that hopefully I'll film with these lenses, make sure you're subscribed, make sure you follow over on Instagram. I do have a few fun ideas that I'm going to be doing with these lenses, in particular the 33, because it's the lens that got my attention from this like Blazar anamorphic set. Make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribed, and until the next one, grab your camera, get out, and go shoot photos.